Washington, D.C. was no stranger to scandal, but nothing had prepared the nation's capital for the tremors about to unfold. On the surface, it seemed like just another Senate hearing, but deep within the walls of the Capitol, political tectonic plates were shifting. Veteran Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican stalwart, found himself at the center of a financial storm so explosive it threatened to redefine not just his career, but the very soul of the Republican Party. The spark? A leaked document showing a $400,000 hotel bill for 2 nights in Kiev. The numbers didn't lie, and they screamed corruption. The media pounced. Headlines blared across TV screens. Graham in hot water, 400K Ukraine stay exposed. In South Carolina, Graham's home state, constituents fumed. Town halls turned hostile. Radio callers demanded answers. "He was supposed to stand for us," said one caller on local conservative talk radio, "not sell us out for luxury overseas." At the center of the Senate's Great Hall, a hearing was hastily assembled. The room, normally quiet and ceremonial, buzzed like a hornet's nest. Dozens of cameras were lined up, their red lights blinking with anticipation. Senators, aides, and reporters filled the chamber, sensing blood in the water. Senator Rand Paul, chairing the hearing, slammed the gavel down. 3 sharp bangs echoed. "We are here to review grave allegations against Senator Lindsey Graham," he announced. Sitting at the witness table, Graham looked pale. His suit, though pristine, did little to mask the sweat on his brow. His eyes flicked. Between the audience and his prepared statement, hands trembling just enough for the cameras to notice. Across from him sat Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, known for his sharp tongue and unapologetic honesty. Kennedy wasn't just here to question. He was here to prosecute, with words sharper than steel. "Senator Graham," Kennedy began, adjusting his spectacles slowly, "I hear you've developed quite the fondness for Kiev, enough to spend $800,000 in taxpayer funds over several trips. Can you confirm this affection is strictly patriotic?" Graham inhaled deeply. "Senator Kennedy, I traveled to Ukraine to uphold U.S. national interests, build strategic alliances, and counter Russian aggression." Kennedy smirked, tilting his head. National interests. Well, I suppose French wine and golden bathtubs fall under that category, too. Your hotel bill shows $400,000 for just 2 nights. That must have been quite the strategic soak." The audience chuckled. Graham's lips tightened. "Those expenses were approved through appropriate channels," Graham shot back. "I wasn't involved in every line item." Kennedy raised an eyebrow and held up a document. "This audit report says otherwise. Your, signature right here authorizing the expenditures. No oversight. No State Department verification. Just you." A hushed silence fell over the room. Camera shutters clicked like distant gunfire. Graham leaned forward. "I followed protocol. All my travel was reported and in service of America's interests." Kennedy wasn't finished. "And your 6 visits to Ukraine compared to just 2 town halls in South Carolina during the same period, also in America's interest. Your voters wonder who you serve, them or Kyiv." From the gallery, someone shouted, "Traitor!" Paul banged the gavel again, but the hearing was already unraveling. Kennedy's eyes narrowed. "There are whispers, Senator. Money routed through Latvia. Former CIA officer Larry Johnson suggests illicit transfers. Think carefully before denying it, because once Kash Patel digs in, the truth won't stay buried." Graham froze. Patel, Trump's former intelligence bulldog. If anyone could uncover skeletons, it was him. An aide in the back typed furiously on their phone. Graham's fingers clawed at the edge of the table. Paul's voice rang out. "Senator Graham, please clarify whether any funds from USAID or military contracts were redirected." Graham swallowed. "All funds were used for diplomatic and defense coordination. I have nothing to hide." Kennedy leaned closer. "That's good, because we have everything to find." The gavel fell again, signaling a recess, but everyone in the room knew. This was just the beginning. Outside, chants had begun. "Investigate Graham. Investigate Graham." Reporters jostled for space. Pundits speculated wildly. and in a shadowed corner of the room, Kash Patel closed his notebook. His eyes, cold and focused, stared at the man who had once been a pillar of his party. The game had begun. As the echoes of the Senate hearing faded, and headlines continued to dominate the national airwaves, another theater of action unfolded deep within the U.S. Justice Department. Kash Patel, no longer confined to the shadows of political warfare, now operated front and center with a single mission: uncover the truth behind Lindsey Graham's mysterious connections to Ukraine and Latvia. The office he was given was small but well secured, tucked within a quiet wing of the Justice Building. There, surrounded by stacks of printed financial reports, digital tablets, and secure laptops, Patel assembled a hand-picked team. Sarah, a forensic financial analyst known for tracing invisible wire transfers. Mike, a former CIA operative who had worked with Larry Johnson in Eastern Europe. And Shadow, a wiry, silent data hacker whose real name was known only to Patel. Patel stood at the head of the briefing table, arms crossed. "We have 48 hours to find the trail. If Senator Graham rerouted aid money into shell companies, I want a clean path drawn. Sarah, start with the $800,000 travel bill. Shadow, break into Baltic Ventures' digital shell. Mike, contact Johnson if he's got a live source in Kiev. I want that contract in my hands." Sarah nodded, pulling up multiple spreadsheets on a triple monitor display. Within minutes, she identified anomalies. U.S. foreign aid disbursement schedules don't match reported expenses. 3 entries show humanitarian aid to Ukraine routed through a company registered in Latvia, Baltic Ventures. And that company has no real operations. Patel leaned in. "Then it's a shell. Shadow, get in." With quiet confidence, Shadow slipped. On his headphones, typing so fast the keystrokes sounded like rainfall. "Give me a few hours. I'll be inside." Meanwhile, Mike placed a secure call to Larry Johnson. The former CIA officer, now retired but far from irrelevant, answered from a dim-lit apartment cluttered with files. "I've got someone," Johnson said. "A banker. Baltic Ventures was his client. He claims Graham is listed as a strategic consultant on a contract signed after the 3rd trip to Kiev, but he's scared. He wants protection. Set up a video call," Mike said. "We'll get him safe." Back in Washington, Patel paced. The stakes weren't just political anymore, they were criminal. If Graham had used USAID funds for personal gain, it wasn't just a scandal. It was federal fraud. Later that evening, Shadow looked up from his screen. "I'm in. Emails, transaction logs, contract drafts. Most are encrypted, but one stands out. A $300,000 request for consulting services. LG, dated the day after Graham's 4th visit to Kiev. Sarah verified it. The transaction matches a USAID dispersal logged as Security Coordination Aid. But the money disappeared into a Cayman Islands account. That account, we believe, is tied to Charles Hargrove, Graham's former campaign manager," Patel finished. "We're getting close." The team worked through the night, coffee cups stacked, eyes red, but their focus never wavered. By dawn, the Bates evidence pile was growing. Wire transfers, flagged communications, and one half-deleted email suggesting external cooperation fees tied to Kiev meetings. At the same time, in a Georgetown restaurant cloaked in warm lighting, Lindsey Graham sat across from Senator Blumenthal. The glass of wine in his hand trembled as he whispered, "They're coming for me, Dick. Patel won't stop." Blumenthal's face was unreadable. "If there's nothing there, you've got nothing to fear. But if there's even a thread, cut it, now. Because Trump wants results, not excuses." Graham's jaw tightened. He wasn't ready to fall. Not yet. By the time the second Senate hearing convened, the nation was transfixed. Networks aired wall-to-wall coverage. Social media feeds flooded with hashtags like "Graham must go" and "Expose the truth." Outside the Capitol, protesters lined the steps. Inside, the air was heavy with anticipation. Lindsey Graham entered the chamber slowly, his face drawn, eyes sunken from lack of sleep. His suit no longer concealed the toll this investigation had taken. Cameras followed every step as he took his seat, Across the room, Senator John Kennedy sat calm and composed, a fresh stack of documents before him, this time handed to him directly by Kash Patel earlier that morning. Chairman Rand Paul banged the gavel. "This hearing will now resume. Senator Kennedy, you may proceed." Kennedy stood. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Graham, since our last session, new evidence has surfaced. Documents from an ongoing investigation led by Mr. Kash Patel reveal multiple payments from Baltic Ventures, a Latvian shell company, to a South Carolina charitable fund controlled by Charles Hargrove, your former campaign manager. Total, $500,000. Care to explain before we continue?" Graham gripped the sides of his chair. "I've said it before, these are politically motivated accusations. I know nothing about Baltic Ventures." Kennedy lifted a new document. "Then perhaps you can explain this email, sent from your aide to Baltic Ventures requesting an expedited payment for LG consulting services. It matches the date of your third visit to Kiev." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. Graham tried to compose himself. "That could be taken out of context. It's not definitive proof." "Not definitive?" Kennedy repeated, eyes narrowing. "Then let's talk about this." He held up a contract, signed, dated, and linked to a security coordination program supposedly funded through USAID. The recipient listed? Lindsey Graham, consultant. Compensation? $300,000, Graham's voice cracked. "That document is forged. I never signed anything like that." Patel sat quietly in the public seating area, watching the unraveling. His investigation had found its footing, and the evidence was speaking for itself. Rand Paul interjected. "Senator Graham, do you wish to provide a written statement in response to this contract?" Graham looked around. He saw no support. Even longtime allies avoided his gaze. Kennedy struck. "Again, you met Ukrainian officials without notifying the State Department. You authorized trips costing $800,000. You approved private meetings that resulted in missing aid funds. And now, we have a witness ready to testify that you were paid to facilitate those transfers." Graham stood abruptly. "I did it to protect America, to support Ukraine against Russia, or to profit from chaos," Kennedy replied coldly. The room erupted. Reporters scrambled to broadcast updates. Viewers around the world watched as a longtime senator appeared to unravel on live TV. And then Patel stood up. Chairman Paul looked surprised. "Mr. Patel, do you wish to address the committee?" "Only briefly," Patel said, his voice firm. "My team traced aid funds from USAID through Baltic Ventures into offshore accounts tied to Graham's campaign affiliates. A whistleblower in Kyiv has provided us with direct testimony and authenticated documents. The Justice Department has begun the process of review." Gasps echoed through the chamber again. Kennedy looked to Graham. "Do you wish to continue, Senator?" Graham sank back into his chair, eyes hollow. "I need legal counsel." Paul nodded. "Then this hearing is adjourned until further notice." As the gavel fell, the room descended into chaos. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed. Protesters outside cheered. In a quiet corner, Kash Patel shook Kennedy's hand. "We did what needed to be done." Kennedy nodded. This wasn't about politics. It was about truth. Outside, the chants grew louder. "Truth matters, truth matters." And inside the Capitol, the shadow of Lindsey Graham's legacy collapsed under the weight of accountability.